Subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Daydreamers with Himika. I think we all fundamentally suffer from the problem of public speaking, or have we messaged the right message to the audience? And today with me, joining me from Denmark, is Asger Lindholdt. Now Asger trains people in the art of public speaking, right from TED platforms to delivering the right business pitch to your audience. So Asger, welcome to Daydreamers with Himika.
Thank you so much, Himika, and thank you for inviting me to this show.
Lovely. We are so glad to have you here. But Asger, tell me something. The art of good conversation. How do we get that right?
Well, I think the most important thing as a speaker is actually to be a good listener, because you want to listen to your audience. So you want to discover what are their challenges, what are their problems. So every good communication starts always with the audience in mind. Step up on that platform because you can help many people, and it gives you access to really share that message that a lot of people are in need for. So always be a good listener as a speaker. That's the starting point, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And well, obviously then there's all the technical part about how do you then structure your talk, how do you find what you want to say. So I would say really you want to start with the end in mind. What is the key takeaway you want? So one of the questions I will typically give to my clients is, what is the one thing when they leave your presentation, what is the one thing they should really know?
Okay.
What is the one thing they should really do or believe? And I mean really do, like, so it comes into your heart, so it sticks with you. See, the thing is, if we can craft our talk with having that one phrase in mind, that's what I really truly want, everything changes. Because a lot of times we haven't learned this thing in school, most of us, at least here in Denmark. We don't learn this in school, so we start coming up with all our information. We want to look good, maybe we're insecure, we want to show I know so much. And I mean, I used to do this myself. When I made presentations, I would just put all my slides together and see, oh, this is all I know, maybe run them through, structure them a little bit, and just, that's not a powerful conversation. That's not a powerful talk. You want to know what the end goal is. You want to uplift them. You want to make them do something. So start with the end in mind. And I think that goes for life as well, with goal setting, but a lot of other things. That makes everything easier. And then you start with the start.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But how?
So yeah, then obviously when you then, yeah, go ahead.
No, continue. Sorry. Yeah. I thought you would.
So once you know yeah, well, you just interrupt because I will just keep going. So once you know your end, you then can start with the start.
Okay.
And in the beginning, people are probably not tuned in for your talk. So you need something to capture their attention. You need to be there so they can see you are there for them. So most speakers will often start talking a lot about themselves. Maybe that comes from insecurities, or just because we learned we got to talk about who we are, all of great educations, all the things we've done. And I would say keep that to a minimum, especially if you are being introduced. You don't need to spend time on that. If you aren't introduced, you do want to introduce yourself. You say your name, what you do, something you're passionate about. You can say, my name is Asger Lindholdt. I'm passionate about helping people become great public speakers. And then you go into your talk. So then if people can feel your passion, you're most likely also an expert, because if you're passionate about it, you're probably going to spend time doing those things. And then they feel, okay, this person is here for me. You can start with a personal story about a problem you overcame. So that story should be related again to the journey of the audience. So if, for instance, I could do a talk about when I just started speaking, and all the insecurities I had in my mind, and how I overcame it, how I didn't dare to share it to the world, all of that things, and what helped me finding great mentors and those things. So yeah, So that you want to keep in mind. Yeah, just 2 seconds. Yeah. So sorry about that. So I came from, where did I come from, Himika?
As in, from what you have to keep in mind when you're having a conversation.
Yeah, so obviously,
When you do your
once you have then crafted a great beginning, you can then go into your talk after a personal story. Maybe you want to ask them a question. If you've ever, if you would like to become a great speaker, maybe make more money on stage, you then raise your arm and have people raise their arm so they are engaged. They look up from their phone. So you got to get that attention. And then the main thing is really you want to tell stories, like because we are born to hear stories. We are born to tell stories. And this is one of the things that took me such a long time to get. I mean, I would watch all these YouTube videos, go to all these courses, and everybody would always say, tell stories, but I would never really understand why they were so impactful. I always had this kind of a little bit on the side. Yeah, it's engaging, it's an entertaining thing, but it's so much deeper than that. See, when we tell a story, actually what we're doing is we're visualizing the thing. We try to put ourselves in that story, and that's why it becomes so impactful. So all good stories revolve around a problem. So most of the story will typically be about the problem, how we're trying to handle that problem, and the different kind of challenges that's on the way. And then the final part will then be the solution. That's typically a shorter part. So all good stories revolve around that. And we are just obsessed with stories. We might not think about it, but think about it when you sleep at night. You're telling yourself stories. Dreaming is stories, right? You don't come, data is not dumping through in your dreams. That's when we really connect on a deeper level. So you need to share those stories. That should be your primary part of your talk, and then obviously your solution to those things. And then you want to tell stories that are related to your audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
But tell me something, Asger. Universally, our audience is specifically looking for few things when they listen to stories.
Yeah. What they're listening for, well, it depends on what, I mean, hopefully you listen, hopefully you know your target audience, so you know what kind of challenge they have. A way to find out is before you have a speaking job, it could be actually to ask the organizers and send them what are the main challenges. Sometimes I will even send out a survey and have people ask, what are your main challenges? What would you like to hear about? And then I can tailor that talk a little bit more to that audience. For instance, if I'm going out to speak at a university where it's a technical university, you want to be sure that you can tell stories around that data. That could be one thing, right? So you want to listen in advance so you can take care of those problems on the way. Yeah.
No, but my question also was that is there a common line or a common thread in terms of the kind of stories that audiences always want to hear universally? Is there something common?
Yes, there really is. And a big misconception about stories is that people think it's the content. They think it's what we put in the story, but in reality, it's the structure. Story has a certain structure,
Okay.
right? We need certain characters in that story in order to influence. We need a hero, we need an antagonist, and we also need a helper, because every good hero needs a helper, because we need to relate to that person. And then obviously you want to go through all of those, the climax, the conflicts, and the learning points. So there's a certain structure to that talk that you need to have. So you can either be, typically you will be the hero yourself, but you want to also have a mentor in that story. That could be a book you read, that could be a physical person you had. So you don't take all the credit. A bad story would be, oh, the dragon came and I went up and killed it, right? You needed help on the way to kill that dragon. Maybe you got that sword, magical sword. Maybe you got that training. You know, Luke Skywalker, obviously he got training from Yoda, So and then so we need that help. We need that advice on the way. So think more when you're dealing with stories. Think more in terms of structure.
Okay.
Have a problem and then a solution to that. Yeah, and you want to build your entire talk as a story, even though it might not always be in terms of a fairy tale or such a thing we call story. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It did. It did.
Okay,
And
thank you.
how different is business storytelling from normal storytelling, or are some rules
Well,
the same?
yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, business stories tend to be a little bit shorter. I would say a business story is typically between 2 to 4 minutes, and then you want to have a point. And so those would be the main things. And you can keep it a little bit more abstract, but you still want to have a personal story involved. You still want to have characters involved. You still want to have a goal, but obviously you can make it a little bit more abstract. So yeah, but I would say business presentations tend to keep them short. Whereas a normal story, you can keep it fairly long, right? We can watch a 1.5 hour movie and be engaged in that, but we're not going to tell a story in a business setting for 1.5 hours. So rather give more examples and fewer and shorter stories.
Okay. But
Mm-hmm.
as the world goes forward, we are becoming more startup and entrepreneurship friendly. So this is the time when more and more entrepreneurs or startups are looking for funding, are looking to go out and give the right business pitch. So from a very public speaking point of view, or from a pitch point of view, are there certain rules that they have to remember when they talk?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it depends a little bit on how much time you have. But let's say you have a time slot of 10 minutes, which is fairly typical. You can also have these super fast pitches with 2 minutes. But let's say you have a 10-minute pitch. The main thing you want to come across with, I would say, they need to feel you as a person. You need to be authentically you, because people aren't just investing in your idea. They are also investing in you as a person. Think about that. You become an investor, it becomes a business partner. So you want to be able to have a cup of coffee with that guy. You want to be able to call him and actually enjoy that company. So if you can feel that passion that those people have, that's incredibly important. Also, because if you are passionate, you are less likely to give up. Because as an entrepreneur, you will meet challenges. That is one of the biggest things. It's not giving up, it's being persistent, it's keep going. So once you're passionate, you can solve those problems. And I think Steve Jobs also said it very well. It's only passionate people that can actually change the world. So passion is a big thing. And then obviously you want to, maybe you have a personal story about how you got into it. If you have a family member that suffers something, or your mother or yourself, that is even better, because then you have a true story to connect with. So if you have a personal story around how you used to have this problem and why you are eager to solve this and help more people, that works well. And then you want to be really, really clear on the problem you solve and the solution. So the problem has to be really clear when you finish that pitch. They shouldn't be, what is it really you're solving? So again, can you find that one statement, this is what we solved, and then this is our solution? So you can say in a business phrase, it's the USP, unique selling proposition. What makes you unique? What makes your idea unique, and why is it better or different than others? So a mistake I sometimes see in pitches is they say, oh, I have 20 years experience as a salesperson, or I'm very good at marketing. See, that's not unique. A unique thing is, for instance, I have a friend, he's working in a startup company, and in that company, they developed a membrane, which usually you would need pumps, where that pumps, you can see the liquid through that membrane, but that membrane is a better membrane where you need less power to pump through, because they made a new design that's unique, right? Because you don't need so big pumps. You can save you save money on electricity. You do good things for the environment. So you have to have something unique. That could also be first to market if that's the first idea. So I'd say that's the one thing. And then if you have time for that, if you can, usually you separate startups in two categories. You separate those that are ideas, meaning you haven't sold anything. And we're all starting at that point. You haven't sold anything, but if you can sell something, if you can get traction, you are no longer just an idea, you are actually a business. So if you are still on the idea phase, see how much validation you can get. Go out there, do the interviews, do the surveys, but maybe can you do some pre-sales before you have your product? You want to see what is the market saying. The market never lies. So if you can hit the market, you have a much better opportunity to attract the investors you really want. Yeah.
Tell me something, Asger. You have only 10 minutes to do this pitch, for example. Now, in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
It's really difficult to pack so much. So ideally, what are the first
Yeah.
5 things or 6 things that you have to go on quickly with, because your audience time limit is so less these days?
Yeah. So very quickly, you want to tell a personal story. Personal story about the problem and how you solve it. That's the thing. If you got a 2-minute, you tell a story, boom, there's this problem, and we solve it in this way through a story. So that could be every day. Yeah.
The problem, the solution. These are the
Yeah.
first things that have to
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Okay, now coming to a personal question.
Yeah.
How did you choose to make this your career? I mean, there has been a need.
Well, yeah.
How did you choose to taking it?
Asked me if there was a market for it, and actually I didn't consider the market so much. Actually, I think the market of public speaker training is very crowded. You really have to stand out in order to attract clients. So you can make a living out of it, but I think there are other markets that are easier to penetrate. So for me, it's because it's my passion. I took a degree as an engineer. I grew up in a family very oriented towards the scientific classes. So that kind of sparked my interest. I wanted to make my dad proud. He had a little bit hard time showing his love, I would say. So, as a child, you're always trying to get that love from the parents. So I pursued a career within engineering, worked a few years in an oil and gas company. I did my PhD, but I was never fulfilled during that journey because most of the time I'd just look into a screen and solve problems, but I wouldn't really be in touch with people. And that's where I get my energy from. I get my energy from interacting with people, having a client that says, now I know how to do it. Now I know how to write that book. Now I know how to make that speech. Wow, it made such a difference. Or helping them make their first video. Or if somebody comes up to me after a speaking engagement I did, and she says, I thought I was the only one that had that problem. And they really, connected that it's totally normal to have a problem like that. So those are the things that gives me energy, being with people. And I discovered that actually when I did my PhD. I liked the teaching. And then I've had a few years as a high school teacher. So that really gives me something. And then it's just been going out there doing speeches, watching videos, taking courses, always staying active on learning, networking. But the most important thing is really getting stage time. So, I mean, if you're a speaker with less than 50 or maybe even less than 100, you're probably still trying to find which leg you can stand on, so to speak. So it's just about going out there and doing it. And then the fear will be minimized because we discover it's not that dangerous. Yeah. So for me, it's just passion, really. Yeah.
Now, no, there was a little glitch in the video, so I was not able to understand the last.
Yeah.
But tell me now, the TED platform is one of the universally most acknowledged platforms, and I think everybody wants to go on the TED platform.
Yeah.
And you have been training people to go on the TED platform.
Yes.
So have there been any zero to hero experiences? Are people most people, scared of going on a platform as big? And I would love to know some experiences as to how people really, went ahead and did the thing that they were so scared of. I think everybody's universally a little worried about going on stage.
Yeah. So you're right. The TED platform is amazing. And when I'm a speaker trainer here in TEDx Flexberg is a part of, you can say, Copenhagen. We always have a lot of people that apply because a lot of people want to get on that stage. And it's just, you craft the best things when you have TED, you have stories, you have solution, you have the newest things. So I say most of the people that actually come and speak at TED are very experienced people, have achieved a lot. So you need to have something when you come on the stage. But with that said, you hit something that's very important. Most of them are still nervous because public speaking is dangerous. It is in a way dangerous because you put yourself up on that stage, and in a way, if you don't do well, or you run the risk of being ridiculed in some way, your social status will decrease. So you are running a risk. It's not a physical risk, but you are in some way running a risk. But I would say the risk of not doing it is way higher because you want to speak your truth. You want to share your message. You want to share your knowledge. Think about that. How fulfilling it is to be able to share what you know, being able to help people. And if you should, come to the end of your life and said, I didn't do that because I was afraid, I really wanted to, that would be a sad, sad scenario. So I think the benefits are much, much higher.
So I just want to
Sure, go ahead.
One question here, which I have always had. Has there been a nervousness or a fear difference between the genders too? Because males and females look at public speaking also very differently. For example, a female speaker could be a little more worried about how she looks on stage. Are there these different fears? I'm just trying to understand because one gender definitely is more. No?
Yeah, you can say, we males sometimes tend to have it easier in terms of dressing up. If we just get on a suit and we can obviously have different colors and so on. But I say women, you have more variety of things to choose between. So maybe there's a bigger, you can say, challenge in order to pick the right clothing. For women, we men tend to be more traditional, so to speak.
Of going on stage. Is there a difference between the genders as to what each of them is more scared of? That's what I was trying to actually ask.
Yeah, no, I haven't personally experienced that. I tend to think it's the same thing. One of the big things is obviously not remembering what to say. That's a big thing. Maybe going over time is also a big thing. Yeah. So no, I haven't really experienced that there are big differences in terms of the fear, what they do have.
Okay. And are they also worried about what kind of questions might come up? Because sometimes the audience can ask questions which can.
Yeah. It's a great way to interact with the audience. I think if you have a longer talk, it should be mandatory that you have questions because let's face it, a talk should be a conversation. Okay. And then you actually can engage in a real conversation by having questions. And I would say, that there can be audience members that don't agree with you, and that's okay. So the first thing is just welcome the criticism. That's totally fine. You can say that. And you can say, I speak from my experience, from the things I've read, and you can be just as right as me. And then you can say, however, I do think that this and this is true. This is my experience. And then you can go on to the next question. So you never want to go in a struggle with an audience member. If you go in a war, you will lose the war as a speaker. So don't do that. Just welcome that criticism openly. If you can't answer the question, if you say, I don't really know, a good way to phrase it is just say, you know what, that's a super interesting question. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. So I want to wait a little bit with that. Can you give me your email or maybe even your phone number? I'll be happy to call you sometime next week when I've looked into it. That shows empathy, and it's okay. As speakers, we don't need to know everything, not even within our own topic. It's okay that there are things we don't know. Yeah.
Uh, we never spoke about what your training model is like, because a lot of people who watch this show will want to come back and, try to ask you these questions. So can you tell me a little bit about your entire training model? How do you train somebody to become a speaker? The model.
Yeah. So the first thing is you want to discover what is they actually want to do, right? Do you just want to be okay on stage and be able to give a formal presentation at work, or do you want to be an inspiring speaker that can actually make a huge difference? So if you want to reach that kind of level, we need to work on storytelling and all the small details. And see, the big problem I had back in high school with, for instance, the humanistic studies was I never discovered the system. Like for me, I always felt when we were reading a text and we had to interpret it, I always thought we're just kind of guessing. I don't really know where to start and discover what is the main point in this text and the underlying messages. So everybody needs a system. We need a system to work from. So what I do is I don't just give tips and tricks. I give systems. So for instance, with storytelling, I've developed my own system called 7C storytelling system. That means you got to go through 7 C's. So it's easy when you're at home. I have crafted them with questions so you can check. Do you have that? Do you have that? So that's a great starting point. Then when you have been on stage maybe 50, 100 times, you can tweak it. You can change it because you get your own experience. When you become world class, you can change, you can break the rules. But in the beginning, you need to follow the rules. So I have systems for everything. I have a structure system, the 5S, how to craft a structure in your talk so you make a real difference and you don't just give information. So I give systems, my start system. I have my personal branded solution. How can you make a solution that is personal, that has a brand, so you stand out and actually become an expert? That is critical. So I give them systems and we work with that, and then everybody is different and when you tailor it to their needs. So for me, it's about giving systems and see what works. And then it's also about a gut feeling. Did I get moved by this? Did it touch me? Right? So it's a little bit of a dance, but you need to know the steps first. Yeah.
Interesting. I guess so. The biggest take for me from today's conversation is that storytelling is essentially how the hero won the war in many ways.
Yes.
Anyway,
It's so critical. Yeah.
it's so critical. What is the problem the hero solved on the way to winning the war? Who helped him? That's essentially what it is in many ways. Thank you so much, Asger. It was lovely talking to you. And I'm going to need your website link or something, so that I'm going to put that up in my, when I put up, so that people can just reach out to you, because there are many people in India who are looking for help on storytelling.
Yeah. I would love, to help people in India, all over the world. I mean, we are one planet. So at the moment, I'm transferring my Danish webpage into English. So I'll give you that webpage, and hopefully within a few weeks, it will be in English. But in the meantime, people can just connect with me on LinkedIn, where I have my English profile as well.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Asger. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
I'm saying thank you. Thank you so much, Himika. It was a real pleasure.
Same here. Thank you.
Yeah.